So, you're thinking of going to South Africa? Great choice. But before you go, let me tell you a few things that will make your arrival a lot smoother. After all, nobody wants to start their trip off with a headache, right? Arriving in South Africa for the first time is one of those moments where you feel like you're stepping into a completely new world. Even on the plane, you'll notice a mix of tourists, locals coming home, and business travelers. The atmosphere in the cabin is almost a preview of the diversity you'll find in the country. When the plane lands, the first thing you'll notice is how organized the international airports are, especially Johannesburg's, which is the largest on the African continent. Despite being busy, the airport is well signposted and everything is in English, which makes things much easier. Still, it's worth paying attention to the electronic signs and not getting carried away by the rush, because immigration often has long lines that require patience. Speaking of immigration, you don't need to worry about major bureaucracy if you have your passport and documents in order. The process is straightforward. Basic questions about the purpose of your trip, where you'll be staying, and the length of your stay. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it's always good to have your hotel or accommodation reservations and your return ticket handy. This speeds up the process and gives a sense of security to the authorities. Right after, you'll notice two things: the climate and the energy of the place. Depending on the time of year, it can be intensely hot, dry and sunny, or surprisingly cold, especially in the southernmost regions. It's a good idea to pay attention to the clothes you'll be wearing upon disembarking. The airport environment is modern, but when you step outside, you'll feel a sense of contrast. People offering taxis, tourists looking a bit lost, street vendors moving around. It's a scene that might seem chaotic, but is part of the experience of arriving in such a vibrant country. Another common expectation is regarding the language. Many people think it will be complicated to communicate, but the truth is that South Africa has 11 official languages, and English is widely spoken, especially in large cities, hotels, restaurants, and tourist attractions. So you won't have a problem. However, don't be surprised if you hear languages like Zulu, Xhosa, or Afrikaans on the streets. This only reinforces the cultural diversity that makes the country so fascinating. When it comes to transportation, it's normal to feel a bit insecure at first. It's not recommended to just grab any taxi that appears in front of the airport. Experienced travelers always recommend using apps like Uber or official hotel transfer services. This simple choice eliminates a lot of the initial stress and ensures a smoother arrival. Another thing many people comment on is the feeling of seeing the country's social disparity on the way to the hotel. On one side, modern neighborhoods, sophisticated shopping malls, and wide avenues. On the other, simpler communities called townships. This contrast can be shocking for first-time visitors, but is part of the South African reality and helps you better understand the country's history. And of course, there's that almost automatic expectation. Will I see wild animals as soon as I arrive? The answer is no, at least not in the middle of the city. But it's common to see signs with images of animals at the airport and on the roads, because safari tourism is one of the country's strong points. This creates a sense of anticipation and makes it feel like the adventure is just beginning. South Africa is one of those places that surprises you in many ways right from the start. The first thing you'll notice is the cultural diversity. You'll find a mix of people, languages, traditions, and stories that make each city unique. It's easy to see this in the food, the markets, the craft fairs, and even in the way people greet each other. It's as if you have access to several cultures in a single country. Speaking of food, get ready to try flavors you may have never tasted before. One of the most iconic dishes is bobotie, a kind of spiced meat pie with a curry flavor and a baked egg topping. But it doesn't stop there. South Africans love a good barbecue, called a braai, and it's practically a social institution. Participating in a braai, even as a tourist, is an authentic experience. Also, the seafood in Cape Town and the coastal region is fresh and of very high quality, and you'll notice that the fish tastes completely different from what you're used to. Another of the country's strong points is nature. From the white sand beaches in Durban to the dramatic landscapes of Table Mountain, And the vineyards of Stellenbosch and Franschhoek, the diversity of scenery is impressive. And if you like adventure, there are hiking trails, water sports, diving, and even surfing in places that don't always appear in traditional guidebooks. Every corner has something to offer, and this ensures the trip is never boring. Safari tourism is another highlight. Even if you don't go to a park immediately, the anticipation of being in a country where you can spot the big five, lion, leopard, elephant, buffalo, and rhino, is thrilling. There are reserves close to big cities, which makes them easy to access and allows for an immersive wildlife experience without having to travel for days on end. For those who love photography, every trip offers incredible opportunities to capture unique moments. In addition, South African wines have an international reputation, and visiting local wineries is an experience that combines learning, tasting, and stunning landscapes. Wineries often have well-explained tastings where you learn about the grape varieties and the production process. The best part? The prices are generally much more affordable than imported wines you find in other countries, allowing you to indulge without guilt. Another positive aspect worth highlighting is the hospitality of the people. In general, South Africans are welcoming and curious about visitors. A smile or a small conversation at the market can lead to valuable tips on places to visit, hidden restaurants, and experiences that don't show up in tourist guides. The local friendliness makes you feel more at ease even in busy areas. And we can't forget urban life. Cities like Johannesburg and Cape Town offer modern museums, art galleries, street markets, and entertainment options that appeal to all types of travelers. The architecture is a mix of modern and historical, and walking the streets is like being inside a book that blends past and present. Each neighborhood has its own charm, from historical areas to more contemporary and trendy regions. Diversity is definitely a highlight of South Africa, whether in its culture, cuisine, nature, or people. Each experience has a layer of richness that is worth exploring, making every day of your trip different from the last. Like any trip, it's important to be aware of the challenges that South Africa presents. One of the first things that stands out is the issue of safety. You don't need to be afraid to go out, but you do need to be careful in some urban areas, especially at night. In large cities like Johannesburg and Durban, there are neighborhoods that tourists should avoid. Walking on poorly lit streets or carrying visible valuables can attract unwanted attention. Even tourist spots, if you're not careful, can lead to uncomfortable situations, so it's essential to be aware of your surroundings. Another point that might be surprising is the social inequality. Right after leaving the airport, you can notice the contrast between modern areas and simpler neighborhoods, called townships. This disparity can be shocking and even unsettling for those who are not used to it. It's a part of the country's reality and influences everything from transportation to local commerce. So understanding this context helps you better handle the experience. Scams targeting tourists are also relatively common. Unlicensed taxi drivers, street money changers, and even people who are pushy when offering products or services can try to trick visitors. A frequent practice is to offer tours for seemingly attractive prices that later hide extra costs or unfavorable conditions. The best advice is to always check if services are officially registered and ask for reliable recommendations, either at your hotel or on specialized websites. Another challenge many tourists encounter is traffic. Driving can be confusing for those not used to driving on the left. Also, roads in urban areas can have heavy traffic, and in rural regions, some routes are not as well maintained, requiring extra caution. Public transportation isn't as developed compared to other countries, which makes tourists more dependent on licensed taxis or ride-sharing apps. Climate conditions can also be a negative point, depending on the time of your visit. In the summer, the heat can be intense, especially in inland regions, and sun exposure is strong. In winter, some areas, especially in the south, can get quite cold, which catches many visitors by surprise. This contrast requires planning your clothes and taking care with sun protection, hydration, and even heating adapters if necessary. Another detail that can be a nuisance is business hours. shops, markets, and even some attractions close early, especially outside of large cities. This requires tourists to plan their outings and meal times well to avoid unpleasant surprises. Additionally, tourist services in less popular areas may be limited, so prior organization is needed to avoid frustration. In some regions, tap water may not be ideal for immediate consumption. Many hotels and restaurants offer filtered or bottled water, but for those who like to explore more remote places, you need to be aware of this detail and always carry a reliable bottle. Furthermore, the language can be a small challenge in rural areas. Although English is widely spoken in cities, some more isolated communities predominantly use local languages. This isn't a major obstacle, but being aware and patient helps you avoid misunderstandings. The cost of certain tourist experiences can also be surprising. Private safaris, adventure tours, and visits to renowned wineries can be expensive, especially for those who haven't planned in advance. Compared to other daily activities, these trips require a specific budget, even if they are well worth the experience. One of the most fascinating things about South Africa is the number of interesting facts you will discover as you explore the country. For example, did you know that South Africa has 3 different capitals? Pretoria is the administrative capital, where the main government bodies are located. Cape Town is the legislative capital, with the parliament. And Bloemfontein is the judicial capital, home to the Supreme Court. It's a detail that impresses those who never imagined a country with multiple capitals and gives a clue as to how rich and complex the country's history is. Another interesting fact is the diversity of languages. There are 11 official languages, including English, Afrikaans, Zulu, Xhosa, Sepedi, and others. This means that, depending on where you are, the way people communicate changes a lot. Even if you speak English, it's common to hear signs, announcements, and songs in different languages, which makes the cultural immersion experience even more intense. Speaking of music, South Africa is known for its unique styles, such as kwaito, which mixes house, hip-hop, and traditional African music. This rhythm was born in the 1990s in Soweto and reflects a lot of the country's urban life and social changes. Listening to local music while exploring the city makes you feel more connected to the culture and contemporary history. Another fun fact is the presence of wild animals in unexpected places. Although safaris are the main attraction, even in some cities, you can see peacocks, baboons, or even small antelopes in urban parks and open areas. This adds a special touch and a constant reminder that you are in a country where nature and wildlife are part of daily life, even far from safari reserves. South Africa is also home to some of the world's most award-winning wines, and the wine regions like Stellenbosch and Franschhoek have fascinating histories. Many of these wineries were founded in the 17th century and maintain traditional production techniques mixed with modern innovations. Visiting these regions is not just about tasting wines, but about understanding the country's agricultural and cultural history. Another interesting point is that the country has the largest population of great white sharks in the world, and regions like Gansbaai offer cage diving experiences. For those who love adrenaline and animals, this is a unique opportunity to observe impressive creatures up close without real danger, and it's something few people can do anywhere else on the planet. In addition, you'll notice unique forms of art and craftsmanship. From wooden sculptures to colorful fabrics and jewelry made with local stones, the creativity of South African communities is impressive. Each region has its own style, and it's common to find pieces that tell stories about tribes, local heroes, or historical events, making each souvenir much more than just a keepsake. Another curious detail that few tourists notice is the love of South Africans for sports, especially rugby and cricket. Watching a game or simply talking about sports with locals is a way to integrate into the culture. The fans are intense, passionate, and almost always friendly to visitors who show interest. And we can't forget the unique geography. The country has deserts, mountains, beaches, and savannas, all within relatively short distances. On one trip, you can go from a tropical beach to a chilly mountain in a few hours, something that few countries offer. One of the most interesting parts of traveling to South Africa is realizing that, in addition to the landscapes and food, there is a strong culture of hospitality. South Africans in general are warm and like to make visitors feel welcome, but there are some etiquette details that make all the difference for you to feel more at ease while also respecting local traditions. When you meet someone, a simple smile and a friendly greeting already make a good impression. In urban areas, a firm handshake is common, while in more informal settings, a wave or even a quick hug can happen. Showing interest in the local culture, asking about the city, the food, or even the person's job is generally well received. It's a sign of respect and genuine curiosity, without seeming invasive. When visiting local communities or more traditional areas, it's important to pay attention to the way you dress. Avoid very short or flashy clothes, especially if you're going into sacred places, cultural institutions, or more conservative neighborhoods. Discreet and comfortable clothes show respect and, at the same time, help you feel integrated. Participating in meals also requires attention. For example, if you're invited to a braai, the famous South African barbecue, it's polite to offer a little help and accept food in moderation without going overboard. Talking and complimenting the dishes is always welcome, and politely declining is also acceptable if you have dietary restrictions. In restaurants or cafes, tipping is a common practice, usually around 10% to 15%, and this shows consideration for the service provided. An interesting point is that South Africa has a strong culture of respect for cultural and religious diversity. When interacting with hosts, even if small observations about religion, history, or local traditions come up in conversation, it's important to listen carefully and avoid judgment. Showing interest and asking questions politely is always better than trying to explain cultural norms from where you come from. If you're staying in local family homes or smaller accommodations, small gestures of politeness make a difference. For example, giving notice about your arrival or departure times, keeping the space clean and organized, and treating the home's belongings with care. These details show consideration and help create a good relationship with your hosts, which can result in exclusive tips on tours, hidden restaurants, and places that don't appear in guidebooks. When interacting with children or the elderly, the golden rule is always to be kind and patient. Many communities highly value respect for elders, and a simple gesture such as greeting the older people first before starting a conversation is highly appreciated. Another point that deserves attention is behavior on public transportation or in taxis. While ride-sharing apps are common, when using local taxis, it's important to be polite, confirm the price before getting in, and maintain courtesy during the ride. Small gestures, like thanking the driver, help make the experience pleasant. Even in urban and tourist environments, being polite, patient in lines, and respecting traffic signs and local norms makes a good impression. Also, listening carefully to guidance from tour guides or staff at attractions is a sign of respect and shows genuine interest in the experience they are offering. Traveling to South Africa is an incredible experience, but it's important to plan to ensure everything goes smoothly and safely. One of the first things to consider is how to handle your valuables. Carrying your passport, money, and cards in outside pockets or open backpacks can be risky. It's best to keep important documents in the hotel safe and carry only what you need for daily outings. Simple measures like this prevent unnecessary setbacks and allow you to enjoy the trip with more peace of mind. When moving around the city, prefer reliable transportation. Uber and similar apps work very well in large cities and offer more security than unlicensed street taxis. If you need a local taxi, always ask for a recommendation at your hotel or restaurant, and avoid accepting rides offered directly by strangers at the airport or in busy areas. It's a simple precaution that prevents problems from the very first day. Walking in urban areas requires attention. In busy places like markets and tourist spots, avoid displaying expensive electronics, cameras, or jewelry conspicuously. Small distractions can attract unwanted attention. It's also recommended to walk with friends or in groups whenever possible, especially at night. If you're alone, prefer busy, well-lit routes. Keep your phone put away and observe your surroundings. Another important point is planning your outings. Before visiting parks, trails, or rural regions, find out about safety conditions, operating hours, and local guidelines. Some places require accredited guides or specific vehicles, and following these rules ensures you have a risk-free experience. In safari reserves, for example, never get out of the car or try to approach animals without the guide's permission. The issue of health is also relevant. Some travelers forget to protect themselves against insects, like mosquitoes, which can transmit diseases in certain regions. Carrying repellent, drinking filtered or bottled water, and maintaining basic hygiene are simple measures that prevent problems during the trip. In more remote areas, it's a good idea to have a small first aid kit on hand. For those who drive, extra caution is necessary. The quality of the roads can vary a lot, and in some rural regions, it's common to find animals crossing the road. Respecting speed limits and traffic signs is not only mandatory, but essential for your safety. Avoid driving at night on quiet roads, as lighting can be insufficient and increases the risk of accidents. A point that many tourists forget is paying attention to currency exchange and financial transactions. Avoid exchanging large amounts of money with street money changers. Prefer banks, official exchange houses, or card payments whenever possible. This prevents common scams and keeps your money safe throughout the trip. Furthermore, when visiting less touristy regions or local communities, be aware of the behavior around you. Respecting boundaries, not photographing people without permission, and following instructions from local guides helps maintain safety and ensures positive interactions. Even though South Africa is full of incredible experiences, paying attention to these details makes all the difference. Small precautions can prevent stressful situations, allowing you to enjoy every moment without unnecessary worries. Traveling to South Africa is a chance to dive into a country full of colors, flavors, adventures, and unique stories. With attention to safety, respect for local traditions, and a willingness to explore every corner, your experience can be unforgettable. Enjoy the safaris, the cuisine, the wines, the nature, and the energy of the cities without rushing. Open your mind, step out of your comfort zone, and enjoy every detail. South Africa is ready to surprise you, and you too.